I grew up in an environment where you would easily see somebody get shot.
It's something I always tell people is one man's obedience is connected to so many people's destiny. So if he didn't show up and, fulfill his vision, there's a good chance we wouldn't be here right now.
100%. At a very young age, I told myself there has to be somebody that learns the system.
How do you know if you can go further and do more?
If you're not failing, you're not doing enough. If you're not failing, you're not even trying.
I think what life wants out of me is to give. I think to give and to create community.
Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to the Latin Wealth Podcast, and I'm super excited about today's conversation interview because we got another phenomenal Latino entrepreneur back on the podcast. So you definitely want to get your pens, your notepads out for this one because we're gonna be waxing deep. All right. So like I said, we got a Latino entrepreneur on the podcast, founder and CEO of Level Up Enterprises. And this company is a company that not only allows you to make more money, but also helps you learn more about money and being financially literate as a family unit. All right. So, and honestly, this man, he is well-rounded in a bunch of different areas when it comes to mindset, financial literacy, business, entrepreneurship. So we're going to do our best today to kind of crack open his mind and give you guys some perspective and some game and hopefully some specific steps to help you advance your life. Welcome, Cris Munoz.
Thank you.
What's up, man?
Bro.
How you living? Yes, sir.
Wow, bro. Thank you. Appreciate
it.
Bro. I feel like I manifested this, bro, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Why? Because first of all, thank you for the introduction. I really, really appreciate that. Number two, I love what you're doing when it comes to the Latin Wealth Podcast. I've been seeing the videos. Even prior to me reaching out to you, I already thought about, man, I cannot wait to get on the podcast. So being here right now in the room, I think is really, really good.
Yeah,
so thank you
that's
for
what's
that.
up, man. I love that. So look, before we start waxing deep and getting to know about you and whatnot, I know you from New York.
Yes, sir.
You back and forth from New York, Miami. You were born in Dominican Republic.
Yep.
I need to know, man. I'm Puerto Rican, but I need to know, what's your favorite Dominican dish? When you go back home, what's that thing that you got to have?
If I'm back home,
okay,
I'm eating sancocho. But the sancocho gotta be made in leña, which is basically wood. So like a wood fire, and they bring the big pot.
What's inside of it?
Oh, all types of protein, chicken.
We
beef,
got our own
everything.
sancocho, but
yeah,
we putting everything in there as well.
Yeah, plantains and everything like that. Yeah, so that's my favorite. But if I'm home in New York City, I like rice with eggs. Simple stuff. I could eat that every day for the rest of my life if I could. To be honest.
Man.
So yeah.
Anytime I go back to Puerto Rico, man, it's mofongo for me all day.
I love that. What type though?
I like, it's got to have like the red sauce and it can be chicken or it can be shrimp on it.
Nice.
It's got to have some type of sauce on it though.
With garlic or no garlic?
You got to put garlic in there. You got to put garlic in there. You put garlic in everything. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, I love it, man. So look, let's jump into, we spoke about you being from DR. Talk about you growing up in DR or you being born in DR and like your early on background and whatnot.
Yeah, so I'm from I am from the Dominican Republic. I'm from a spot called Rincón La Vega. Rincón La Vega is honestly El Campo, right? Is not the city. I grew up, riding horses. I grew up walking goats with my grandfather. I grew up in an environment where kids don't even properly grow because they don't have the nutrition or resources to actually grow. Wow. Right. So a child that may be 13, 14 years old may look 8, 9 years old to you because they don't have that proper nutrition. Right. So I come from that. I come from kids just walking around naked because, again, they can't afford clothes. I come from a place where the homes are made out of zinc. I don't know if you know what that is, but zinc is like a very thin aluminum foil, but very, very thick. And they build the homes that way. But the problem is that when it rains and there's holes in that, everybody getting wet. So I come from that, So I come from poverty, but still a lot of magic and still a lot of positivity when it comes to the environment. But growing up in that environment, still the energy and the fire that I needed, that I knew that once I grew up and even throughout my journey, that we needed to change the paradigm when it comes to our environment and also our community.
So did you grow up with both your parents, brothers and sisters? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I grew up with both my parents until I was 12 years old. Then my father left the house, and that's when my mom became a single parent, right? Okay. And that's when I had to be the man of the house, and I was already working at 12 years old. So I
was going to say at 12 years old, I know you was, making money, working at sneaker stores. Yeah. You said fixing PCs, removing viruses and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So you were still in DR doing this?
No, I was in New York then. Okay. I was in New York City then.
Okay. So what age did you go from DR to New York?
When I was 8 years old.
When you was 8. Okay. So you was in New York for 4 years.
Yep.
12 years old, pops left, just you and your mom.
Yep. And my brother.
Your brother, you needed to hustle. You needed to make money to help her out. You start hustling any way you can. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I was working at a sneaker store on 161st and Broadway. And you got to think about it. This is an environment that when it's hot outside, you could feel the violence outside. Like, honestly, I'm saying this right now and I get goosebumps because it gives you trauma when you come from that environment, right? So I grew up in an environment where you would easily see somebody get shot at 12 years old. Like, I was seeing that. The top OGs were dropping every single year because of the game of the streets, right? So I was on that block and I was at a sneaker store and I was selling sneakers, and that's when I became a bit salesy and I started to develop those different skills. I was giving out pamphlets on the corner. I was doing whatever it took, and I was making $190 a week at 12 years old, which for a 12-year-old, that's great money.
Doing it.
Right? But when I got that paycheck, I was going home and I was just splitting it with every single person in my house, with my grandma, my mom, my cousins. Even my cousins, I would give them $20. So at 12 years old, I already had that leadership mentality that I'm the one that's going to get us out of here and I'm the one that's going to provide, even though I'm a young kid at 12 years old. So even now thinking about it, I just turned 30. But when you come from that environment, you don't really have a childhood. I feel like I never had a childhood just because I had to think about goals and getting out the hood and, prospering for my family. And then on top of that, becoming somebody, and working every day towards that goal of becoming the person that I am today.
So let me ask you this, and there's definitely some parallels with my story and your story, because I think I was at the age of like 8 years old. I think it was like 7, 8. I ain't never said this on the podcast, but my pops went down for a couple of years, and he basically told me, like, you got to be the man of the house.
Right.
At that age, I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there was a similar situation. It was just, I didn't have a brother, I had a sister. Okay. Little sister, you know what I'm saying? So let me ask you this. What made you guys move from DR to New York?
The American dream.
Okay.
What everybody talks about, the American dream.
And you heard these conversations about America growing up. What were the conversations?
Oh, no. Everybody was coming out here and everybody was, getting homes and things like that. But everybody talks about the American dream. Very few understand the American system. Right? So we came at 8 years old to New York City. Most Dominican people go to New York City because that's the hub for Latin people, Puerto Rican, Dominicans, Colombian, etc. And it was to get a better life. And you get here and you understand that you are going against a system that you have to understand deeply to be able to succeed every single day. Right? And I would say that from the age from 12 to now that I am 30, 18 years, it took 18 years of trial and error and getting to it and putting in the reps every single day to be in a good position.
So what age did you get to the point where you understood that there was a system, and how did you begin to understand it?
I would say early age, 9, 10 years old. I understood that it was a system for us when the only time that I would see somebody with a button down in my neighborhood is when you were either going to a funeral or you were going to court. And that's when things started to really hit me. Like, I don't really see our people driving nice cars or in a nice suit or looking presentable, right? I see our people only doing that when tragedy happens. Why do we have to wait till tragedy to happen for us to be who we really are, right? I would only see white folks, doctors by Presbyterian, which is like one of the major hospitals by my old block. Those were the only people that I would see in that element. So at a very young age, I told myself, there has to be somebody that learns the system and then comes back and conveys the message and applies the learning so that we all grow and we all win. So that's the mission that I feel like God put me here to do.
Okay. So you realize that at a young age, 12 years old, you're hustling, you're doing what you can for the family, giving out money to cousins, grandma. What is, your life looking like in high school? What's going through your mind? I think you played baseball.
Yep.
That was a dream of yours as well. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so baseball was definitely a dream of mine. I was always, honestly, naturally, I was always very talented at sports. Like,
Who was your inspiration?
A-Rod.
A-Rod?
A-Rod was definitely my inspiration. Until this day, he's definitely my inspiration.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I see him as a leader even after baseball, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't get the opportunity to play baseball at an early age. My mom, I was so good at baseball that even when I was playing in elementary school, during recess, after school, they will come up to my mom and tell us, "Listen, you got to put this kid in baseball today." But my father said no because it was going to be a burden to pick me up, right? So at an early age, I told, wow, if my own father is not going to support my dreams, then I can only imagine what the outside world looks like, right? So you got to, I was always thinking about those different things. You got to think about it. Where I come from, it's not like other places where these kids are sent out for camp and they're getting scholarships and they're getting paid showcases to get exposure. I had to basically go to Central Park, and I used to walk from 160th, or if not, I used to hop the train every single day. I used to hop the train so that now I could save that fare of $2 and I could give that money back to my mom, or not. I could use those $2 to not go to the deli and buy myself some chips and soda or whatever, right? Which again, that's not the proper nutrition for any athlete, right? But I would go to Central Park and I would and I would approach every single coach and I would ask them, Can I field for you? What can I do for you for labor so that now you put me as part of your camp and I'm able to play for your league and things like that. So I was able to come across a very, very great coach of mine, honestly a father figure to me, which is Coach Tiny, Puerto Rican as well. He's 5 feet. That's the reason why they call him Coach Tiny.
Okay.
And he was the one that kind of took me in under his belt, right? And he showed me everything and he told me, you know what? Field for us today. Tomorrow, please come back and show me your report card. I've always been a 4.0 student. I was always on game with everything. Like I was never the type to not do well in school. I just knew that was stupid, right? Like you got to think about it. The system we come from, we preach and we praise stupidity. I just always knew that was not the way. So I was always straight A student. I was always good with the books and everything like that. And once he saw my report card, he took me in, and then from there, it was a great ride.
So talk to me about how this gentleman came into your life when your father figure left. What did you learn from him as a man? And I'm really curious to know, like, how did you gain that trust with another man to even call him your father figure?
Yeah.
I know when someone leaves like that, when that void leaves, it's like you have trusted, so you don't want to trust anybody.
Yeah.
But you were receptive to him, and it seems like maybe your mindset of knowing, like, yo, there's a system, I'm going against this.
Yeah.
Maybe I need as much information as help as possible. What was it?
Yeah, honestly, I was a sponge on the field, and I would always ask him questions. I would call him. We used to talk for hours on hours, talk about absolutely everything. And he would be the one. I already had the seed to succeed. He would be the one to come water the plant every single day, and just talk life into me every single day, and telling me, Chris, you will be the one. You will be the one. Do not derail. Forget about the girls. They're going to be there forever. Like he was always the one telling me, you have to stay laser focused and you're going to be the one to come back and be a leader. So the trust really came from him. He was a person that he was a leader too. Everybody would look to him as a leader. He had many different people. But again, I used to work with him as well. So aside from me being an athlete myself, I used to work with him and he used to pay me. I used to take that check back to my house and pay groceries. Or if not, my grandma's pills or, anything like that. So that's how it went. And honestly, baseball to me was a beautiful, sport. It taught me lots of discipline. That discipline, I've been able to transfer it over to my career now and what I do now with the companies. But I just feel like the way that he approached me and the way everything was, honestly, I feel like my life was written. And he was definitely part of my life, and he's still part of my life today.
How far did baseball take you up to?
College. So
what happened?
At the age of 16, I was already offered a professional contract with the LA Dodgers. Again, we don't come from families where we have a doctorate degree, we have a master's degree, we have a bachelor's degree from Harvard, we have a bachelor's degree from Cornell. So I got the opportunity to go to Michigan State University. So I had to choose either Michigan State University and be the first one in my family to obtain a college degree and already set that standard, where now that's the standard, or and again, breaking generational curses as well. Or I got the opportunity to go play pro ball. My mom said no to the pro ball because she wanted me to be the first one to go to college. That's how much my mom instilled the power of education into me. If you were to come to my house when I was 8, 9 years old, you probably thought my house was a school because it was timetables, algebra, geometry at a very, very young age. My mom knew that the only way for us to prevail was to really cherish the power of knowledge. And once you have knowledge, you got to apply that knowledge. And that knowledge is definitely going to take you where you want to be.
So how was that conversation? Like, you come in, you got these two different options.
Yeah.
LA Dodgers, baseball, your dream.
Yeah.
I mean, every child of color's dream, you know, to go to the leagues and whatnot, or Michigan State. Was it a simple conversation?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I cried for days. I cried for even today. I'm like, wow. And I tell people all the time, like if I would have went that route, I would have been a professional baseball player. And people that are watching this right now, you play with me or you know who I am and you know where I come from, they would also agree. You know, but I cried for days. When I'm telling you, one thing about me, if I'm going to do something, I'm not going to give it 100%. I'm going to give it 1,000,000%. Like, I am all in, locked in. Like, I did not have summers. I did not know what a summer vacation was. I was on the field day in, day out. I would wake up, take care of my grandma, cook for my grandma, hop the train on 157, take the one train all the way down to 96, go to Central Park and be there at 9:30 in the morning, train kids. At 14, 15, I was already training kids. Train kids from 9:30 to 12 o'clock, and that became my family, to be honest. And then from 12 to 6, I was training myself. They were training me. And then I would do it all over again for the entire summer and the entire year.
So you pick Michigan State.
Yeah.
So now you're going from New York. I mean, it's cold in New York. Weather's crazy, but you're going to Michigan.
Yeah.
Weather's crazy as well.
Yeah.
Talk to us about this experience.
Big change. Huge change. I was only 16 years old. And I remember the day before was such a sad day for me. And for my family as well. We cried all night. Because I'm a leader, not only in my family, but in my community, in my neighborhood, everywhere I go. And to say goodbye to my mom at the age of 16 and kind of say, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to come back for Thanksgiving, because I'm not sure if we'll be able to afford a ticket back home, back home. So I'm not sure when I'm going to see you again, but I have to go because I got camp and I got to get ready for the baseball season and I got stuff that I got to do. So imagine at 16 years old, I'm already thinking about, I would either take the risk or I stay here in New York City and I become another stat.
Yeah, statistic.
So I said, nah, I'm going to go ahead and go to Michigan State University. I'm taking the risk. And when I got to campus, it was night and day. Where I come from is buildings, is a city. When I'm out there, you got to drive everywhere you go. It's super cold. You're not really seeing Latin people like that. You're not really seeing Latins that come from New York City that have that New York culture. It's Michigan culture. I definitely faced lots of racism out there, being Latino and being brown, dark skin, so it was different. Even that year, that first year, when I completed my first freshman year, I had the opportunity to get a summer internship to go to Virginia and sell books door to door. So I had the opportunity to go back home and be in the hood or stay. And I would always, stay. I will always take the option to stay because I was trying to mitigate as much risk as possible. And I know the vision that I'm going for and the goal that I'm going for. And those were tough days. Virginia is not a tough spot. It's not an easy spot. So imagine being 17 years old. I didn't have a car. The other folks that were part of the internship program, they did have cars. I didn't have a car. So they lent me a bike with like a baby seat in the back. And that was me the entire summer. And mind you, I'm biking 30 to 40 miles. I was in great top shape always. So to me, it wasn't really a bother. But imagine biking through Virginia in the roughest neighborhoods of Virginia to the point that people would tell me, listen, you're kind. I would not recommend you to go down that way. I'll sell a door, let's say I'll knock on a door to sell a book. Somebody come out with a shotgun. I've been through all that, biking home and all you hear is gunshots. I've been through that, but through
those moments, not to cut you off, through those moments of you biking, knocking on doors, hearing gunshots, you on your bike, what are you learning in those moments?
Persistence.
Okay.
persistence. I'm learning persistence. I'm learning discipline. I'm learning that in order for you to succeed, you got to pay a price. And I paid that price. I was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches the whole summer. I ain't know what a steak dinner was till I got back home. I ain't know what rice and beans and chicken was till I got back home. I was eating literally tuna out of a can to be able to survive out there. And it showed me persistence, and it showed me that not only that you got to pay a price for it, that I really, really wanted it. And I needed to go through that. And I remember when I came back home, I was super skinny. I probably lost like 10, 15 pounds of muscle mass. And when I came back home, my mom told me, she was crying. She was like, wow, like you look so different. But I look different, but I gained so much wisdom. And that's the reward that I got from that internship.
So I know you've heard of Tim Grover, right?
Yeah.
So he's got this quote, and I don't want to butcher it, but he pretty much says, like, if you think the price of winning is too high, wait till you get the bill for regret.
Yeah.
So like you keep saying, I keep hearing this word, paying the price, being persistent. Like, you have to do this work now.
Yeah.
Right. And mitigating risk.
Right.
Because if you got that bill for regret, that's a big bill.
100%.
You feel me? So
100%. And you can't let up. Again, we come from the bottom. We can't let up. We cannot. We got people that rely on us, so I always thought about my family's relying on me to take the chip back home. And you best believe I'm taking the chip back home. That was always my mindset. And everybody knows that, like, I always try to propagate that energy that we can, because we can. And the reason why most people would rather pay the bill of regret is because they don't even believe in themselves. The system we live in, especially towards us, it makes you believe like you're not worthy of great things, that you're not worthy of success. Everybody in here in this room right now, we all know that we have the magic, but you're waiting for permission to let that magic come out. And I always knew it since a little boy. I always knew it. I remember myself doing push-ups at 4:00 in the morning while everybody was sleeping. I remember that. And I would tell myself, I know what I'm about. I know what I could do, and I know my mission. And on top of that, I know my faith. I have a lot of faith in myself and what I could do and what God put in me. It's on me to get it done. Same like everybody else in here. It's on us to get it done and finally commit.
How do you get that magic out of people?
Ooh, that's a great question. You got to break the limitations. You got to break the limitations when it comes to society, right? Even when it comes to the stock market. I'm sure a lot of families, a lot of people grow up saying, their families saying, well, that's only for white folks.
For sure.
Right? Those are limitations. You have to rewire your subconscious mind and finally make the decision to be yourself. We come into this world and we don't even get the opportunity to decide our names. Our names are given to us. So what does that mean? It means that nothing in this world, everything comes from the outside. Nothing comes from within. How many people actually sit down and understand their inner being and who they really are? So the only way for you to get that magic out is for you to break the limitations, rewire your subconscious mind, understand that the past is the past, and you got the opportunity to focus on the present, which is the power of now. That is the only way to get the magic out of anybody, is to really rewire their mind.
I love that. So you start changing your mindset, you're rewiring your mind, you're doing the internship. When was the switch for you where you start getting those wins? When the persistence starts to pay off? What was like that first win for you?
Great question. In college, I've always been the one to go to any environment, and I highly encourage anybody, when you go into an environment, first you have to assess. You got to take the step back and assess, and you got to see how the environment works. And then after you see how the environment works, you got to focus on what are the gaps, what are the problems, how can I rectify, what can I do to mitigate and change things around. So at Michigan State University, I've always been into tech. I knew that tech was going to be the way at a very young age. I always told myself.
What year was this?
This had to be 2012.
Okay.
2012, probably my sophomore year of college. So I got a bachelor's degree from Michigan State University in computer science. I wanted to learn how to code and how computers work and everything like that. They did not have a group or a club, is what they call it in college, for technology. So I created Leaders in IT. So Leaders in IT is the first technology group at Michigan State University. And many people did not believe that I could get it done. And I told people, just give me 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I already had a board meeting going. And it started with 3 people. And from 3 people, we went to having events of 500 to 1,000 students. By the time that I was in my senior year, I was one of the main folks responsible for the entire career fair for Michigan State University. So that's when I started to see the win. When I stayed true to myself and I was able to assess how I can actually get into the game and rectify gaps, if you will.
Okay, so you start winning at Michigan State senior year. What happens once you graduate? What's the plan? Are you going back home?
Good question.
Where are you going now?
Yeah,
you staying in Michigan?
Yeah, so because I was the president of that Leaders in IT, and I've always been the one to be very, very social and get to know the community and stuff, and that's why I really like what you said earlier about you really want community out of the Latin Wealth Summit. Because I was responsible for that, I graduated with 16 offers out of Michigan State University. I got to know the recruiters by name, like on a personal level, where Dow Chemical was my first one, Facebook was another one. I had an offer from Ford. The reason why I went with Microsoft was because Microsoft, I do have a story with Microsoft back home in the Dominican Republic. Microsoft is probably one of the few companies you actually see a logo of in the Dominican Republic. And I saw it at a very young age. And when I was 11, my mom got us a Dell computer, like the big box Dell.
Right.
And I started messing with the computers and everything like that. And I told my mom one day I will work for Microsoft.
It was like a full circle moment.
Full circle moment. I was already 20. I got my first offer. It was a 6-figure contract or offer for Microsoft. And I started off as a consultant out of Charlotte. And that's when everything changed after that.
All right. So what I want to hit on is how you started to leverage your career to build wealth, to elevate yourself. So you get this offer right out of college, huge offer. I mean, most college students, they graduate, they stay looking for a job, the right career for a minute. Yeah. Right. So you get this opportunity. How did you start leveraging what you were doing in your career to build the platform that you have now? Yeah.
So just one thing when it comes to people not finding jobs and stuff like that, you got to want it. You got to want it. A lot of people go to college and I want to be partying and doing stupid stuff. You got to want it. Like I had people telling me as a freshman, don't go to the career fair. Guess where Chris was at? At the career fair. Handing out my resume as a freshman. Maybe it may not be the most bulkiest and best resume you've seen in your life, but you're going to know my name and I'm going to be there the following year and I'm going to be better the following year. So when I hear that people don't find jobs, are you applying to 50 to 100 jobs a day? Are you going to networking events every single weekend, every single week? Are you doing that? If you're not doing that, you can't really talk. So I think it's really about putting in the work and really wanting it.
I definitely want to talk about the leveraging your career, but what I want to ask you is for those individuals that may feel like they may or may not know, but outside looking in, like, okay, this person could be doing more. How do you know if you are doing enough? So let's just say it's kind of relative, right? And the individual that's maybe can't find a job, they're applying at, let's just say 10 a week. For you, that's not nearly enough, but for them, that's like, man, I'm putting my work in. How do you know when you are doing, well, I guess when the results ain't there, but how do you, even when the results are not there, you're doing 100 applications a day, how do you know if you can go further and do more?
If you're not failing, you're not doing enough. If you're not failing, you're not even trying. If you're not failing, you're not doing anything. I truly feel like for you to know that you're doing enough, first of all, you have to fail. And after you fail, you're going to get the wisdom to refine and fine tune your logic and strategy when it comes to what you want to do. And you will start seeing the results. Right. So I just feel like everybody could definitely push more. And I think that if everybody that's watching this right now, if you were to ask yourself, can I push more? I'm pretty sure the answer will be yes. Can I change things around so that I can get better results? The problem is that people don't really want to commit. Why? Because commit comes with fear. The fear of failure and even the fear of success is something so big that it takes over people's lives. Right?
Why do you think people fear success? You think they won't be able to handle it?
There you go, the pressure. People don't think they can handle the pressure. And again, what does the system do? The system is designed so that you think those things. It's designed so that you don't even have to focus or the quiet time for 15 minutes of creative genius that comes out of you. Right? So oftentimes people feel like once they get to success, it's going to be hard to sustain. But again, that's part of the process. The part of the process is the pressure and how you handle the pressure. And as you continue to confront the pressure and confront that fear, that's where a lot of your growth is going to come from. Everyone knows exactly what they have to do to be able to grow in life. And not when it comes to money, because money, again, people think that money will complete you. Money will not complete you. It's who you become throughout the journey, which is the most magical thing.
I love that. Okay, so let's go back to leveraging your career to build wealth.
Yeah.
I want to hit on that. I want to take me down that path.
Yeah. It's probably gonna be a little lengthy, but let's see how I can cut it up.
Yeah.
So Microsoft got there at 20, Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, different environment compared to New York City, down south, and everything like that. So got used to the culture and new folks, if you will. But I started off as a consultant. When you are a consultant, you are basically like a liaison, like you are like an advocate, depending on what you're working on. And I started to travel every single week. I was traveling every single week. I will never forget my first trip, and it was to Redmond, Washington, to Microsoft headquarters. And it was the first time that I took my first corporate trip by myself. So imagine, again, where we come from, we're not taking summer vacations every single summer, so we don't even know how to check in at an airport. Like, that's how bad, honestly.
You're right.
These are the things nobody talks about, and these are the things that we have to talk about. I didn't know what it was, a boarding pass. What's a boarding pass? I got other Microsoft folks with their boarding pass on their phone. Mine's still printed.
Yeah.
Mine's still printed. So, and people were like, not laugh at me, but they would
I'm
joke
talking about printed from the printer machine, not from the
Correct.
kiosk.
Printed from the printer machine, because back in the days when we used to travel to the Dominican Republic, everything was like in a big pamphlet and everything like that, right? So that was big, right? And that's when I remember. Matter of fact, I went back to Redmond in April, and I took a photo of the exact same view that I saw 10 years ago. And that view told me, it's on you.
What was the view? You
are on your own. It was the national car rental spot after I got out. And all I could tell myself was like, wow, like I'm really on my own. I don't have nobody hand holding me. Now I'm in a whole different ball game. I'm competing with people that have 20 plus years at Microsoft or 10 plus years when it comes to tech. I got to show up. And that's when I became a learned all. I started making connections. I had 3-5 different mentors. I was meeting with my mentors every single week. I was following up with them. I was asking them the most uncomfortable questions.
Like what?
I was asking them, like, for example, what is the biggest mistake you've made here at Microsoft so far? I don't care about the wins. The wins I know that you're going to get, but what is the biggest mistake you've made so far? And they would tell me, well, I didn't switch jobs here. I didn't do this right. And I would take that and I would just learn it. I've always wanted to become a speaker. Always, when I was a little kid, I told myself, I will be on a stage. I will be on stages when I grow up. And me, for example, to be very, very vulnerable with everybody, and I think it's really critical for people to be vulnerable, not just with other folks, but with themselves. Me, for example, I have a stutter. And that's something that I've always worked on my entire life. And I told myself, I will get to a point where I will become a good speaker and I'll be able to effectively communicate to other people. And growing up, people will laugh at that. But that was something that I always told myself I have to get better at. So at Microsoft, I joined Toastmasters. So Toastmasters is a club that teaches you how to speak in front of other people. And I went there every single Wednesday. I got super cool with the instructors to the point that I was paying her for classes on Saturdays. And then it got to a point where I was practicing so much, no lie. My mom could tell you this, that even during my sleep, I will sleep talk. Hello, everybody. My name is Cris Munoz. I'm a consultant at Microsoft. The whole speech, I'll be showering and I would practice my speech on how I would introduce myself. I would practice what I would say when later down the road, I'm going to be on a stage. I'm manifesting my entire life and I'm getting better every single day. I'm refining, I'm fine tuning every single day. And that's when I started to be a speaker at Microsoft. I got my first presentation at Microsoft Ignite, and I can tell you I've never been more nervous for something than that. It was a stage of 1,000 people. I'm 19 years old, from Harlem, Washington Heights, New York City. I'm representing my entire neighborhood to talk to people that have 1 or 2 decades in technology, and they're listening to me. And after that presentation, I became an author at Microsoft. I've written blogs at Microsoft. I started to learn how Microsoft actually works, the different divisions within Microsoft. Any company that you work for, you have to understand their business model, how they actually make money. That is the only way that you're going to learn your role when it comes to that company. And then I was switching roles. From a consultant, I became a PFE, which is basically a premier field engineer. And that role, you are flying out, not just domestically, but internationally to other countries, and you're doing workshops. So we are Latinos. We speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. I started to go to Guatemala, to Mexico. I went to Barbados, to Trinidad. I mean, I'm working with governments on cybersecurity, and I'm telling them what they should be doing, or recommending them what they should be doing to be able to protect themselves from different cyber attacks. Mm. And after that, that's how everything changed. Now, I always told myself I wanted to create my own legacy, my own empire, right? And I'm very grateful for Microsoft and everything that I've been able to learn there. And I will say the most important things that I've been able to learn at Microsoft is the following. Everybody's looking for the blueprint. Why don't you create your own blueprint? Everybody's Googling the best answer on Google. Why don't you find that answer by yourself and then you pioneer and you lead other people? And that's what I learned at Microsoft. Why? Because if you look at Bill Gates, if you look at every division at Microsoft, it started with one person with a thought. Mm. That thought led to an action. That action then became a habit, and then it finally stuck with other people. So I feel like oftentimes we're always looking for external guidance and recommendations. I think the most important thing is that once you have an idea, you have to go at it with speed, because speed works when it comes to the development of anything, right? And that's the most important thing. And my first idea was our Latin people, our community, we do not know anything about financials. We don't know anything about the financial system. And I told myself I have to create a platform where people can come learn about the financial system, how to invest into the stock market, how to trade. Why don't we trade? Trade comes from us. It comes from us. Slavery was a trade. Why don't we trade these companies that rule the world? Why don't we do that? Why don't we put in 6 months to 8 months of learning the technical analysis of a graph? Everybody's stuck on TikTok and Instagram and Netflix and everything like that. They already made their money. They already got their dividends. Where's your dividend at? You know Stephen Curry's stats. What are your stats? Right? So it just told me that, yes, I'm going to learn everything about cybersecurity. I'm going to learn everything about how to present, how to lead a workshop. And those were the things that I was actually learning the most from. Is how do I effectively direct a conversation? How do I close a deal? How do I come into a business dinner and lead a dinner? Those were the little small things that I did not have the experience in that I got at Microsoft, where then I started Level Up. So Level Up started with a very small group, and it was called One Day at a Time. And the whole scope behind that was that one day at a time, we're going to get better. One day at a time, we're going to show up and refine. And then we're definitely going to get to the vision and the goal. And then after that, I saw so much interest from our community that I told myself I have to create a community like a Discord or something like that where we can all get together. We can share ideas. We can talk about different things. And I started doing classes. And once I started doing classes, it was only up from there. And now Level Up is a ecosystem of different companies. We have 6 companies under that, and we have different asset classes. So we have financial trading, we have credit, so credit repair, credit and also credit building, business funding. We invest in real estate. We do capital management, and yeah, it's been a great journey. But yeah,
no, I love that. So you was talking about Bill Gates and his vision and his obedience and his speed to accomplish that vision.
Correct.
And that reminds me of, it's something I always tell people, is one man's obedience is connected to so many people's destinies.
Right.
So if he didn't show up and, fulfill his vision
and believed in it,
there's a good chance we wouldn't be here right now.
100%.
So I just can't imagine, the things that we're doing, the obedience that we're showing up with, how many people it's going to affect down the line that we may not even know about.
100%. Honestly, we will look at this video 10 years from now. And I'm pretty sure that we are both going to be like, wow, it was all worth it. Every day getting up early and putting in the work, coming home super tired and doing it all over again. That's the magic right there.
So let me ask you this, man. So when it comes to our Latino community, we spoke about like how the conversation with finances is almost taboo. Right. It's hard to get our people to talk about finances it's even harder to get them to invest, right? Why do you think that is? I mean, besides the fact that maybe lack of education, maybe the belief system, what do you think it is, right? Because I was actually having a conversation with a young lady earlier, and she said, something that I've been thinking about is, a lot of Latinos that she knows, they work in construction.
Yeah.
They make relatively good money.
Yeah.
So they feel like, I enjoy working. I'm going to go work all day. I'm going to make this money, put the rest of the money underneath my mattress, and the family's good. I don't need to do too much more than that. Right. And I think that's the mindset that a lot of Latinos may have.
Yeah. Well, one, we think everything's a scam. That's
true.
I think lack of education, right? We don't really have an outlet or a platform that really teaches us anything about financials. We come from families where if you ask your grandma for your passport, she's gonna lift the mattress. You know what I'm saying? Like, have you ever had that happen or no? Have you ever had that happen?
I mean, definitely have grandparents hiding money and whatnot in the house, somewhere in the house.
Right. So that's the mentality that like that's the foundation. Like the foundation is not compound interest. Make your money work. Your money should always be moving. And then on top of that, we can't even blame them. Why? Because they don't understand the system.
You're right. You're right. And to your point, not to cut you off, before my grandfather passed away about 3 years ago,
sorry about that.
He was going through, like, we knew it was coming. And I had asked him, like, do you have anything invested? I'm just out of curiosity.
Right.
And he's like, no.
Right.
And I was like, that conversation hit me different.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like you said, it kind of goes back to how he was raised and where he comes from. He comes from the South Bronx.
Okay. Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm sure those conversations weren't there for him growing up, but that hit me different. And, God rest his soul, but I don't want to be in that position where my grandchildren are asking me, are you invested in AI? Are you invested in this company? And I say, no.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the foundation when it comes to mentality. And I think another reason why is because our grandfathers and grandparents, they did not understand the financial banking system. I feel like once you truly understand the financial banking system, then it will, and you see how they move and how they play the game, then it will also entice other people to play the same game as well. For example, we are taught to what? To save money. Okay? We're taught to save money. Inflation goes up every single year, meaning that your dollar is less. It's not worth what it used to be worth 5-10 years ago. So us saving money, we're honestly burning money away. Right? So that's definitely number one. Number two, even if you put money into a savings account, Chase, Bank of America, they're only going to give you 0.01%. Our families don't know what a high yield savings account is. Matter of fact, our families don't know that you can go to, for example, here in Dallas, Landmark Premium Credit Union. They give out close to 7% a year when it comes to interest. Right? We don't practice these things. We don't talk about these things. And I feel like Latin people were taught to stay quiet about the money. Like if people know about your money, how much and how much money you got, they may come after you. Like we really come from that mindset. So that's why we're not really open about talking about money. Also, when it comes to our communities, it's all about competition.
Yeah. Who's doing better?
You got a house, I gotta get a bigger house than you. Oh, okay, you got that car, I gotta get a better car than you. When it should be more around fellowship. And that's what we really need to instill when it comes to our community, is fellowship. I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. We are two different people. We have our own magic. We can create our own separate legacies and still be able to collaborate.
How do you remain competitive without being competitive with your community? Because I know you're play baseball.
Yeah.
You got that spirit in you.
Yeah.
How do you remain competitive?
I'm competing against myself. I'm not competing against no one else. There's not one company. There's not one soul outside from mine. Because again, it's you. It's up to you. If you don't go to the gym, it's because you decided to not go to the gym, right? If you did not go and do that webinar or class or workshop, it's because you did not want to do it. So when I think about my goals and my vision when it comes to, when it comes to my life, I think about myself. What am I willing to do? What's the price that I'm willing to pay to get to the next level? Somebody else makes a lot more money than me. Great. They paid the price. They did something right. Maybe I should call them and see what they're doing. As a matter of fact, I called a lady, Natasha Burton. She does real estate a few weeks ago, and she builds homes from scratch in Houston. And she told me, wow, like, I'm really surprised you reached out. And I said, why? She's like, because no one else would like no one else would reach out because it's all about competition or
who looks the best on the ground.
Who looks the best or someone else doesn't. They don't want you to say that, they put you on. Like, it's ego. And that's why I feel like for you to be truly successful, not when it comes to money, but when it comes to life, you have to kill your ego.
Gotta kill the ego. Yeah.
Yep.
But do you feel that ego to a certain extent can get you to where you need to go?
100%. But it cannot be with a negative intention. Me, for example, I try not to have an ego, to be honest, when it comes to many different things in life, my personal life, everything, So I feel like when you kill your ego and you really surrender and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, this is where I'm at, this is where I have to go, and this is where I'm at, that's the conversation that most people don't really want to have with themselves, because most people feel uncomfortable and they are ashamed of who they are, that just that first step, they will never go to that first step. They're going to ignore that first step and continue living life like a robot instead of finally facing their fears.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact. What's the recent failure that you had and how did you overcome it?
Really good question. I'll be very, very vulnerable. And again, it's really good. I'm one to always share these things, never to hold back when it comes to this stuff. But big lesson for me, you really have to audit your circle. You really have to audit your circle. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to keep it a buck right now. If you got people around you that you're doing business with and you feel some sort of animosity, even at the slightest level, you got to cut them out. When you are given and gifted and you're the chosen one and you have a magic and you have a light, you're going to have a lot of people around you that they don't really want you to shine. And for example, we built a trucking company called Level Up Transports. We didn't really have the right people in the business. Ended up losing $50,000 right there. So that's a $50K loss that I had to take. And this is part of the journey. And I feel like I had to go through that. Right? Because I was too naive. I was trusting just because, and again, it be your own people. It was Latin people. But you have to audit your circle. Right? You have to audit your circle. You got to feel people. I feel like people jump into relationships too quickly, especially when it comes to business, because it's all about benefits, right? Okay, you got more followers, so I should hit you up because you got more followers. Or you may be a millionaire. Okay, cool. I'm gonna hit you up. It's not really about genuine relationships. Like, for example, did we break bread together? Do I know about your family? Do you know about mine? Do you know if I'm a family-oriented person?
Important.
So really getting to know the people you do business with and the people that you have around you is super, super critical. And that's a big loss that I took. I had to see that. It was probably one of the things in my life that kind of shook me up a little bit. I've been through a lot of things in my life, but that was definitely one that was a big wake-up call for me. And I feel like that was the wisdom that I needed to now be able to grow even more, but with the right people, aside me.
No, that's a great point, because even with this platform, early on, I was partnered with somebody that had a big platform that was relatively successful.
Yeah.
And, ultimately we decided to go in a different direction. And I felt like in that moment, God was like, you need to stop trying to leech on other people and you need to create your own table.
Yep.
You don't need to be a part of so-and-so's table or this person's table. You need to create your own table from scratch. And hitting on, like, making sure they're good people. Yeah. My wife was even like, I ain't feeling him. And she's saying that, and I'm like, okay.
I'm going to tell you something, bro. If your partner, especially, if your partner tells you she don't feel, she's right.
No, she's right.
More than often times, she's right. Yeah, so that was a big wake up call for me, and it hit me bad because bro, people that know me know that I empower, man. Anywhere I go, anywhere I go, I inspire you. I'm bringing positive light. I'm bringing positive energy. So when you walk like that anywhere you go and you get hit with stuff like that, it's definitely gonna shake you up a little bit. So I had to really reflect on my past and my decisions and the people that I had around me. Now I would definitely say that I'm a bit more reserved now, but I feel like now this is when I have the opportunity to really hone in on me, my vision, my goals, my creative genius, my community, my hometown back home. I mean, I could do so many different things.
Speaking about hometown, you have success. What does it look like now when you go back to your hometown? Whether it's being around maybe folks that you still seeing doing the same thing, Maybe it's your family. They looking up to you now. Or what is it? Or they been, relying on you and looking up to you?
Yeah.
What does it look like now?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a leader since like a young child, like 12, 13, people already saw me as the leader. Like I was always because when I came to the U.S., I got skipped a grade. So I was always the youngest one, but I was always around older folks. And even around the older folks, I was the leader. I was leading them as a youngin in my family. So now when I go back home, honestly, I'm like a hero to a lot of people, a hero. And
how do you remain humble knowing that?
How do I remain humble knowing that? I'm not no better than them. I'm not better than them. They could do the same thing, but it's their choice if they want to do that, right? They got to be able to make the choice. So when I go back home, I'm still playing ball in the hood. Matter of fact, I was just in the hood 12 hours ago. I'm still home, and it's not even a hood. To me, I feel like our neighborhoods, we have so much magic. It's just that the system puts this cloud over us so that we forget how magical we are. So you got to be the one to go back home and speak life into people. The folks that are still doing the same thing that I saw them doing 5 years ago, I'm speaking life into them and saying, you are a lot more than this. This right here is what the system wants you to do. And a big question, matter of fact, I was watching a podcast the other day. And matter of fact, I want to ask you this question. You know what you want out of life, right? You sit down, you have reflected, you've had these different conversations with your partner, with your family. What does life want out of you? And that's what I ask everybody. And I would like you to think about it while I continue so that you can answer it. But I ask that to every single person back home is, who are you truly meant to be? You know exactly who you are meant to be. You're just waiting for permission. Permission from who? From society? From Instagram? From one of these rappers that are not doing what they should be doing with a big platform like that? What does life want out of you?
That's a good question. No, that's a good question. I think what life wants out of me is to give. I think to give and to create community. And I think that's where I excel at.
Yeah.
You ask the people around me, like, what I'm good at is bringing people together and getting people in the same room or providing information and giving.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And I think even with that, answering that question, that may evolve. That may change in the next 5 years, 10 years, depending on what God places into my heart and where He wants me to be.
Yeah.
It may switch up.
100%.
I think for the season I'm in right now, I think it's giving and creating community.
100%. And we're meant to evolve. So that answer will definitely change. But you're staying true to yourself and what you actually want and what life was out of you. And you know that feeling. I feel like if everybody were to close their eyes for a couple seconds and think about that vision that they see in their head of who they are, they have a vision, and God wouldn't put that vision in your head if you're not possible of getting it done.
If you can go back in a time machine and you can go to the DR when you were 8 years old and you can talk to the younger version of Cris, what would you tell him? You have 1 minute with him. What would you tell him, and what would you do in that moment?
Great question. I would tell him to keep going. Tell him that he's on the right path. Tell him to stay militant to the vision. I would tell him to never dim your light for other people. Because I knew the light that I've always had this light since a youngin', and I've always had the awareness and the consciousness to be able to acknowledge that. So I would tell him, never dim your light for nobody. God put you on this planet for you to do something, and you gotta stay 10 toes down with it. No matter what room you walk in, you gotta be yourself. I would tell the young Cris to be more vocal. Definitely be more vocal. I feel like I am vocal, but I feel like throughout the years I could have done a lot more positive things. I've done a lot of positive things, but I just feel like, again, with the external limitations and everything like that, that can get to your head, within certain seasons of your life. And I just feel like I would have told him to do not care about any external validations. Look within, focus on yourself. It's you versus you. You got to make sure that you win against yourself, and just to keep going, because he was definitely on the right path.
Now I'm gonna ask you another question. I got a couple more questions.
I love it.
You said in 10 years we're gonna be watching this back.
Yeah.
What would you say to that person in 10 years?
I will say that I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him for being a leader. I'm proud of him for being a great father. I'm proud of him for being a great son, a great friend, a great mentor. I would say that like one of my biggest goals is to have like one of the largest capital management firms in the world, and it being led by a Latin person. So I would tell him congrats and to make sure to celebrate, to take time off, because that's one thing that I really have a challenge with is not taking time off. But I would say take time off and to spend it, to really enjoy with my loved ones. Because I feel like, think about the trajectory of the USA American dream. You're working your entire life. How many vacations have you taken with your family? Right? How many dinners have you had with your family? How many intimate conversations have you had with your mother? And ask her about how was it when I was, when you were raising me? What were the things that you were going through? We have family members and we don't even know them. And why don't we know them? Because the system gives you so much BS for you to deal with that you're going to forget about the core values, which is family, is fellowship, right? Is fostering great relationships, is having a sanctuary when it comes to your partner, being that sanctuary for your partner, vice versa. Those are things that I would say that I would tell him to really preach on and to really hone in on.
I love that. Look, bro, we can start wrapping this thing up. I could probably go a couple more hours with you.
Yeah, bro. Thank you, bro.
I think this has been a phenomenal conversation. Like, I really believe that people will gain perspective from this conversation. And I just pray that, and I know there's seeds that are being planted from people that are going to be watching this and listening to this, and they're going to be blessed in a tremendous way. One question I always ask my guests on the podcast is, first off, thank you guys for coming through once again to Dallas. Who is one person that needs to be a guest on the Latin Wealth podcast? The only rule is you have to know him.
I have to know him. Wow, that's tough. I know a lot of people, man.
One person that need to be a guest on here.
Wow.
I may just give you a pass and you can just let me know later.
I know a lot of people. That's the thing. I feel like that's tough. That's really, really tough. That's very, very tough. That's very, very tough, to be honest.
We gonna go with A-Rod.
Let's do A-Rod. Matter of fact, I've met A-Rod.
Okay.
Matter of fact, when A-Rod was doing his
we gonna manifest A-Rod.
Let's do it. When A-Rod was doing his spring training, I was actually in Tampa, and I was playing with, I don't know if you know who Mariano Rivera is, the pitcher.
Yeah.
I was playing with his son, and we did a whole. We were playing against AA teams. I was in high school, and we were already playing with AA teams and AAA teams, and I was able to shake Rivera's hand and also A-Rod's hand as well. So A-Rod, I will say A-Rod. Listen, A-Rod, you got to come out here, man. Stop playing.
I love that. We're going to clip that up. But look, man, once again, thank you for jumping on the pod. Indeed. This was a phenomenal conversation.
Thank you.
I'm going to be honest, bro. Like, usually I have a bunch of notes and whatnot, but I'm just going to let it flow.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You know what I'm saying? And I love the way it ended. Talk to the people. Let them know where they can find you, where they can reach out to you if they have any questions. And, yeah.
So I would say, first of all, for those that are still here watching this episode, I wish a lot of abundance for you and your family. I would tell you, my biggest advice for you would be the following. Get it done quickly so that you're able to enjoy with your family. That's the most important thing. You could have $100 million, and if you don't have that family component, you will never feel complete. I would also say that throughout the journey, you will definitely, have obstacles and challenges and everything like that. Just know that it is part of the process. You will learn from that. Make sure to always learn from that. Journal, reflect, meditate, go out on walks, whatever you got to do, but make sure that you always gain wisdom. Even if you take a L, even if you consider it a loss, you will definitely gain wisdom with it. And that wisdom you get, your job and your responsibility is for you to propagate it forward. You can find me on Instagram at official Cris Munoz, or if not, you can go to levelupenterprises.com. We do so many different things at Level Up, and our main goal is to empower each and every person to do more across the world.
I love it, man. I'm glad we got this in. It's been a long time coming. I feel like we've been kind of like trying to figure it out. You in Miami, I'm in New York, so I'm glad we got it done. Thank you once again for coming out. That was beautiful. You guys can catch us on all platforms at Latin Wealth, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.